Alrighty, Mr. Number 3, we got your 2-pill RFT PP100 homebrew self-built amp here, and you shot it on down here to Northeast Georgia. Wanted me to take a look at it for you and make sure everything's fine with it, and see if there's any improvements that can be made, this and that. And hey, I encourage anybody out there that are trying to start the process of building your own amps from home. If you ever get in a sling and have some trouble, give me a holler. Shoot your box on down, man. I always give major discounts for people that are doing this. Always. Because I remember that's something I had to do when I started off. So major discounts for anybody that needs to send boxes down just to get them tuned, make sure they're tuned fine, anything like that. Major discounts for them kind of people. I respect that. Hey, that's how I started. Anyway, the build looks good, man. First thing I noticed before I done anything is on some of these older boxes, they don't have ground tabs on them. You always want to make sure the SO239s are grounded very well to your copper board. Okay, that's going to help keep your SWR down, any kind of reflect down. It's also going to help keep noise out of the amplifier, possible noise. And so I went ahead and added you 2 ground tabs to there before I even hooked it up. As you can see, put your 2 new screws, 2 new bolts. A lot of times, man, these older amplifier cases, they can get oxidized from steel sitting with aluminum or just, whatever, and they'll kind of lose a connection to the heat sink electrically. So it's always good to reinforce that. Make sure that both SO239s are grounded well. But anyway, so here's what we're getting out of it before we've made any changes. I noticed that you went with a 2-wrap on the input and a 2 on the output. So this is a 2 and 2. And I mean, she's working well so far. I mean, it ain't working that bad at all. We are going to change her to what she normally would be, which is a 3 and 2 with this configuration. And we'll see how that's looking compared to this. But anyway, the way you got it tuned, man, the input looks great right now. 10-watt slug. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Barely no input reflect. We're on 14.5 volts. Here's your RMS from 1000-watt slug. Oh yeah, about 80 watts. Oh yeah. All right, here's your PEP. Oh, about 280 watts. Okay. What I'm going to do, man, is I'm going to go ahead and put her back on the bench, and we're going to take this yellow Teflon, this wrap out, and I don't know if that's 16 gauge, looks like 18. We're going to put 16 gauge on it and change it to a 3. And we'll retune the input and the output and see how it is. That's what it should be, is a 3 and 2. But hey, man, you never know, man. It might work better with that. Like I said, I have not played with the RFTs yet, really. I've only done 1 build with them. It turned out decent. I know Mr. X for us, Mr. Arlen over there, has won some competitions using them already, so that's a good thing. All right, brother. Mr. Number 3, we got this in a 1 driving 4 bass amplifier with some HGs. You got it over there. We'll be looking at that next. Alright, we'll be back. Alright, big brother. Went ahead and changed to 16 gauge 3 wraps. Another thing I went ahead and changed is your choke. You had a 1/4 inch choke on there, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Something that we found out on this end. Actually, Mr. 073 found it out. Okay, I'm a man that likes to give credit, you know what I'm saying? I don't like to take no credit if I ain't figured out something. But anyway, Mr. 073 found out when you use a 1/4 inch bead like that, it's good to double up on your chokes to about wraps to about 6 wraps. And you can use about 22 gauge if you want to, 20 gauge. This is 20 gauge. I just went ahead and just changed it though to a 1/2 inch bead, 3 wraps of 20 gauge. Alright, man, but check this out. All we did was change and add one more wrap, and take a look at the difference. Input reflect. Over a watt. So that little bitty difference will make that much of a change. The tune is so off now that it won't even key properly. Listen. Hear it rattling? So we're going to get this thing done. Go ahead and get this thing retuned, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, man, got her tuned out. Here's your input reflect now. Very good. Here's your output. We got the PEP on. That's where I had it, so we'll show you PEP first. Now we're getting a solid 300 watts. So the power has came up a bit. Right there, about 95 RMS. So, just changing that over from a 2 wrap to the 3 has improved. Okay. Alright, brother. We took it off the servo supply and we've hooked it up now on the unregulated 100 amp supply on the medium tap. And this box is working great, man. Let me show you. We're close to 200 bird, just hitting it with the hot radio. So, of course, you know the drill. We went from 4 watts over to 8. Okay. Here's what we're getting out of it on 8 watts. Right there, about 180, 190-ish. Let's see. Good low dead key. Alright. Here's your PEP. So you're over 400 watts, man. Just hitting it with a hot radio. You're sitting on some high voltage right here on the high tab. Let's see. Like 16 volts, you know, but that's a little hot on the voltage. But what we'll do is we'll hook this driver up just real quick, and I don't know if you want me to mic these trimmers in or not. We'll talk on the double L about that. You might want to keep them in, so maybe you might want to play around with it when you get the box back. But we'll talk about that. But anyway, give me a second. I'll hook the driver up to it, and we'll do a quick burp with it. Burp it real quick. What you think? All right, man. We got the epoxy 1 pill hooked up on it. 128.79. She does about 100 watts PEP. About 110 or so with the hot radio. About 50 RMS. So it's going to give it some good drive. Alright, man. So here's what we're getting out of it with a driver hitting it on the medium tap on the 100 amp supply. Okay, this is RMS. Look at that, man. You got a kicking ass little box, man. Excuse my language, man. Box working well, man. Real well. 300 watts RMS. Here's your PEP. About 450 watts. Like I say, one thing about this Stickman Modified 29, it doesn't do a hellacious amount of PEP watts. It does some good clean RMS wattage. And I say that to mean I can hook up the old bench radio right now, and it'll either be doing about the same PEP, sometimes a little less, but you know, a lot less bird. But dude, you're getting right there 425 or so, about 450, I think, 450 watts PEP. It's dropping to 15.4 volts. So this thing's rocking, man. 300 bird. You got you a successful build here, number 3. I'm glad to have been able to help you out with it. Let's see, it might be a few more things I want to point out to you. One thing is, always make sure to torque down these screws. They wasn't torqued, you know what I'm saying? They were on tight, but they wasn't what you call torqued. I went ahead and torqued them for you. I personally, by preference, like to use socket head screws, because to me it makes me seem like I'm able to tighten them and torque them easier. And the reason why I say that is, you know, you start torquing down on a Phillips head, you know, it don't take much to, you know, begin stripping it out. But on the Allen head, which is a negative thing if you don't have some experience playing around with them, they're not going to strip out pretty much. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be very hard to strip them out, but you can break the head off of them. That's why I use only stainless steel. I use stainless steel hardware, bar none only. I do not use nothing other than stainless. The only time I might use something other than stainless if it's on a little quick build that I'm doing, you know what I'm saying, maybe, but 9 times out of 10 I'm using stainless, and you know, it's a lot stronger. But that's why I like to use Allen socket head products or whatever. But you got a smoking little box here, man. You did a great job, dude. When you mic these in, you may see a little, that's just a phenomenon that happens. That can go one way or the other most of the time when you mic in a box and go from the trimmers here down to silver dip micas or metal clad micas. Your wattage will come up just a bit. I have seen that happen time after time after time. On a few rare cases, the wattage goes, you know, down a bit, but most of the time it goes up. When I mic in boxes, I sit there and I get them to the number. It's just a habit. I'm not completely OCD, but I do have a touch of it. All right. I think that's about it, man. Only other thing I seen, man, is you did real good keeping your leads short, man. It's a big plus, especially when you're dealing with, you know, homebrew copper boxes like this. You want to make sure to have your leads as short as absolute possible. I mean, I know you have to make something, you know, look good and look presentable, but just as short as absolute possible, man, by far. Having all that extra wire all over the place, I mean, it can you know, start causing, you know, wires can be being radiated inside the box, which is going to create more radiation out of the box around, you know, RF going down wires. See, you got a bead right here, which is good. This right here is going to keep your RF off your DC line. And if your box is nasty enough, this won't even stop it. But this right here is attempting to eliminate, to keep any RF from traveling down this power wire back to your equipment and begin radiating through your house. You don't want that. No. And I think that's about it, man. I tell you, man, I don't know how many you've built so far, but this is by far better than the some of my first ones. And one last thing I do want to mention. I could tell that, I'm not saying 100%, but I could tell it'd probably help if you got a little hotter of an iron. I say 60 watt minimum. That's what I try to stick with. I mean, you can get away with a 40, but man, when you're dealing with, you know, straight copper here, man, soldering these wires to this copper, a little thing that helps me when I'm soldering these power wires is tin up the copper first, then hit it on top of it. That's gonna make it a lot easier to do that, man. All right, we'll get on to your 1x4 next, man. Be the first, actually, man. I'll give you props. You're gonna be the first HG 4-pill. Even though I think yours are distros, I can't remember. I can't remember if yours are US distros or not. I think they're 04s actually. But anyway, we'll get on to that next, man. we'll get this top on here, man. Get this thing shipped back to you. Throw you a little fan on the bottom of this thing, man. Heck, if you want to, you can. Hell, I wouldn't even mess with a high and low, man, unless you just want to. Put your little preamp on there if you want to. Need help building a preamp, man, just holler at me, man. We'll figure out something. Actually, I got a video showing how to build a preamp. You can follow that video. Everybody else out there waiting on the new preamps, continue waiting. Sorry this is a long process, but when you've got other people in the mix, you know, it's out of my hands. But it's going to be worth the wait, I promise. It's going to be some proper made technology into the CB realm. Let's put it that way. The type of technology they're using out there in the military. Let's just put it that way. No gatekeeper out here around the northeast end of Georgia. I'm good and gone. Bye-bye. 73rds. God bless.